The question is the House to now adjourn. I call the honourable member for Chifley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to turn attention actually to the growing concern that is becoming evident within the digital economy sector at the indifference that they're confronting from a coalition government. Time and again we see evidence of either a lack of care, a lack of effort or outright belligerence from this government, and it's not, to be completely frank, being spearheaded by the Minister for Communications or his parliamentary secretary. They're quite aware, quite sympathetic of the issues facing the sector, but what is becoming clear to people within the sector is that these two individuals are not calling the shots. The whip is being well and truly cracked by the Prime Minister's office, and they're cracking it in the face of the sector, and the sector doesn't like it, and now they're starting to speak up. 29th of September, Sydney Morning Herald, an article written by Sylvia Pennington, titled "Federal Government Accused of Neglecting the Digital Agenda." And in there, the Australian Information Industry Association had basically matched up action against claim in coalition policy. And the government had failed to appoint, this is from the article, an ICT advisory body, progress its plans to offer most government services online by 2017, produce a dashboard for government ICT performance and investment, improve the transparency of its technology spend, or provide an update on teleworking targets. That's from their CEO. Well, in actual fact, Member for Cunningham and Shadow Minister, the CEO of that organisation said it's been a year of nothing that is transparent and obvious to us. That's from the sector. Then you go on to cloud computing and what the government's doing, or should I say not doing, in that space. AusHub, that represents the cloud computing sector in this country, said that basically we've been in the starters' hands in the race for the take-up of cloud computing for too long. This is in October, 8th of October. Their chair, Matt Healy, saying the updated information security management guidelines released today by the Attorney-General, not the Minister for Communications, the Attorney-General, may not promote cloud adoption. The United Kingdom has a goal of shifting half its new government IT spending to cloud-based services by 2015, yet in Australia only a tiny proportion of the federal government's annual ICT budget of nearly $6 billion spent on cloud projects. And so you see that. The data retention proposals being put forward by the Attorney-General, again, another person who is now championing copyright reform, again the Attorney-General, not the Minister for Communications. And in terms of data retention, the government wants to turn the telcos of this country into a massive external hard drive and make them pay the cost for it. Industry policy. On industry policy, policy that's supposed to support innovation actually ignores the innovators, doesn't even target the tech sector. The only thing that they did is that they finally got round to addressing the employee share ownership program. We had kicked off the review in government to start that process of change. They talked for ages about doing it, didn't do anything in the budget, finally got round to it. But then you look at, for example, the crowdsource equity funding issue. And this is something that we, again, in our national digital economy strategy, said needed to get moving on. And we authorised CAMAC, the Companies and Corporations and Market Advisory Council, to look at this issue and to start putting in the rules. And we've had a report that was handed up to the government in May to legalise, to allow for start-ups to get access to capital through crowdsourced funding. And I have met with organisations, start-ups, that are moving to New Zealand because they do not have the regulatory framework here to allow them to raise that capital. These start-up entrepreneurs are innovators. They are creators of economic wealth. They are not criminals. They shouldn't be exiles, and yet we have a government that is dragging its feet on putting in a regulatory framework on crowdsourced funding for this sector. And what they've done is they've flicked it to Treasury. Well, you can imagine what Treasury is going to do. They'll slow it right down, be as conservative as they can, and we're going to be waiting for ages to see something happening on crowdsourced funding. The sector is actually calling for a statement from this government saying, tell us where you're at in terms of fixing up the regulatory framework on crowdsourced funding. Stop talking, stop giving us promises, stop giving us the words that were in the innovation statement. They only had one paragraph and total inaction. This government says it's pro-small business, it says it's pro-entrepreneur, yet its actions continue to fail to live up to expectation and our small businesses, our entrepreneurs and our digital economy is the worst for it.
The question is the House denies